Welcome applicants. We're going to do Essay 1 from June 2019 Baby Bar. Okay, let's start with the call, which is where we should start. Number 1, is applicant John Smith likely to prevail in his lawsuit against Bob? Discuss. 2, what intentional torts, if any, can applicant John Smith likely prove in his lawsuit against Deb? Discuss. Right here in our second call, we have identified our area of law. Where is our area of law? Torts. Right here, this word torts, highlight. So we know, and if this wasn't a clue, we can look up actually to peek up to the paragraph before. Applicant John Smith sued Bob in tort, right here, for harm to his reputation. He sued Deb in a separate case in tort. 3 reinforcements here that our area of law is indeed tort. So let's do our shopping list right here. Okay, so our shopping list. Intent, intentional torts, negligence, strict liability, products liability, other torts, third-party claims. Now, if you have your own checklist, please supply it. If you have your own shopping list, please supply it. Okay, let's start reading our question now. Question 1. Ann owns a chain of daycare centers in the city and needed to hire a new director of operations. John Smith, who had recently moved from a small town to city, applied for the position. He appeared to be well qualified for the job. Ann sent an email to her friend Bob, who lived in town, to see if Bob knew John Smith and whether he had any information about him. Bob emailed back stating that he did not know John Smith, but that he believed that John Smith was a convicted drug dealer who had sold drugs to minors. Although he did not explain the source of his belief to Ann, it was based on an article in town's newspaper that he had read about the conviction of a major drug dealer named John Smith, who had been selling drugs to students at the local high school. Ann decided not to offer the job to John Smith. When Smith inquired as to why he had not received the job, Ann truthfully told him that Bob had Bob had informed her that he was a convicted drug dealer who had sold drugs to minors. In fact, the John Smith that Bob had read about in the article was a different John Smith, and the newspaper article had included the actual drug dealer John Smith's address and photograph. They were in no way similar to job applicant John Smith, who was the fine, upstanding citizen that he appeared to be. Upset and distracted after talking with Ann, applicant John Smith got into his car and carelessly merged into traffic, cutting off Deb, who barely avoided running into him. Deb became enraged, and after he pulled into a driveway to turn around, managed to use her car to block him in his car in the driveway for 10 minutes. John Smith screamed at her and called her insulting names. Deb took her foot off the brake and drove her car into John Smith's car, significantly damaging the bumper. It took the mechanic 2 weeks to repair John Smith's car, and he charged $2,000 for the repair. Okay, now let's get at an applicant John Smith sued Bob in tort for harm to his reputation. He sued Deb in a separate case in tort. Let's get right to our call of the question. Call number 1. Is applicant John Smith likely to prevail in his lawsuit against Bob? John Smith v. Bob. Let's do call number 2. Is what intentional torts, if any, can applicant John Smith likely prove in his lawsuit against Deb? John Smith v. Deb. Okay, now that we've addressed our calls, let's get right to it. Our first read through our question was to get a big picture perspective. Now our second read is to get more of that issue spotting from the facts, so that we can zoom in on the issues that we need to address. Let's do that right now. Ann owns a chain of daycare centers in the city and needed to hire a new director of operations. Does Does that raise any particular torts that we're aware of yet? Not, it doesn't look like one, so it's more foundational. John Smith, who had recently moved from a small town to city, applied for the position. Well, we're getting closer maybe, but still foundational. He appeared to be well qualified for the job, still foundational, and sent an email to her friend Bob, who lived in town, to see if Bob knew John Smith and whether he had any information about him. These will be foundational facts that maybe we'll bring up later on in the reputation defenses, but these are still just foundational at this point because we haven't had any facts that raise a tort. Okay, Bob emailed back stating that he did not know John Smith, but that he believed that John Smith was a convicted drug dealer who had sold drugs to minors. This was the belief. He believed. I want to highlight that. Okay, the belief. I probably want to change that color back maybe to yellow. We'll do that here. There we go. He believed that John Smith was a convicted drug dealer. Belief. Now, what? A convicted drug dealer? This could very well be possibly defamation or slander per se. Who had sold drugs to minors. Although he did not explain the source of his belief to Anne, it was based on an article in town's newspaper that he had read about the conviction of a major drug dealer named John Smith, who had been selling drugs to students at the local high school. Anne decided not to offer the job to John Smith. This is very important here in our claim for the reputation. What John Smith, applicant John Smith sued Bob for in tort for his harm to reputation. Harmed reputation. Just want to take just a minute here. Harmed reputation usually is a defamation claim, and we'll go into our template for defamation here in just a minute. Now, when Smith inquired as to why he had not received the job, Anne truthfully told him that Bob had informed her that he was a convicted drug dealer who had sold drugs to minors. Still, these are all leading up to the possibly defenses to that harm to the reputation, possibly that qualified defenses, truth as a defense, those kinds of things, and we'll talk about that, and the constitutional privilege, which would be a very important issue in this. In fact, the John Smith that Bob had read about in the article was a different John Smith. Truth as a defense here. And the news article that had included the actual drug dealer John Smith's address and photograph. They were in no way similar to our job applicant John Smith, who was the fine, upstanding citizen that he appeared to be. Upset and distracted after talking with Anne, applicant John Smith got into his car and carelessly merged into traffic, cutting off Deb, who barely avoided running into him. Right here, this could very well be what? Possibly assault and battery. But we need to read more to fully understand this. Deb became enraged. Okay. And after he pulled into a driveway to turn around, managed to use her car to block him in his car in the driveway for 10 minutes. Now, remember, applicant John Smith here is suing who? Deb. Okay. So we're going to look here into enraged. That could be an additional fact for IIED. Possibly intentional infliction of emotional distress. Up here, possibly we have some assault and battery. We're not quite sure yet. Maybe it's more of a defense. We'll take a look to more of the facts. And after he had pulled into a driveway to turn around, managed to use her car to block him. Block him in his car. False imprisonment here. In a driveway for how long? 10 minutes. Remember what? Even for a moment, you can get false imprisonment just for even a second. Just a reasonable amount of time. Essentially, 10 minutes would fit that satisfy that element. Now, John Smith screamed at her and called her insulting names. Screamed at her. Okay. This would possibly maybe be defenses later. We'll have to see. Deb took her foot off the brake and drove her car into John Smith's car. There it is. There's our trespass to chattel. There's our conversion. Well, right here is a trespass. Drove into John Smith's car. Right here, trespass. Significantly damaging the bumper. There we go. Possibly conversion. it took the mechanic 2 weeks to repair. That would definitely add some support to our conversion as well. And John Smith's car, or to repair John Smith's car, and the repair mechanic charged John Smith $2,000 for the repair. There's your damages right there, right here. Okay, or general damages, special damages. All right, let's go at writing this thing now. Okay, coming down here, John Smith versus Bob. First of all, what is it? What is it we have? Do we have an intentional tort against Bob? Nope. Do we have? Let's copy and paste this here. Copy, paste this here. Okay, come down here, copy and paste this. All right, for Bob, do we have an intentional tort against Bob? Doesn't look like one. We delete that. Was there a negligence against Bob? Not necessarily. This negligence will come up later, possibly under the constitutional privilege, but we'll entertain that later. Now, any strict liability for activities, wild animals, those kind of things? No. Okay. Now, products liability. Had any products cause any harm? No. Okay. Other torts, and those other torts would include defamation. Do we have a defamation here? Absolutely we do. That's the reputational harm. Okay, now, third-party issues. Do we have any third-party issues? In other words, is there an additional tortfeasor other than Bob? No. Okay, so we are right on with defamation, because defamation claim John Smith v. Bob. Now let's come down here real quick. Under Deb, was there an intentional torts? Did Deb commit any intentional torts against applicant John Smith? Absolutely. What intentional torts would that be? Well, first let's take a look here. Assault, battery. Remember the assault and battery for running into the car? Absolutely. Possibly. Intentional infliction. Of emotional distress. What about running into the car? Trespass to chattel. Absolutely, trespass to chattel. What about the conversion for not only running in the car right up here, significantly damaging the bumper, and which took the mechanic 2 weeks to repair the car, and $2,000 later? Absolutely. False light for Bob. That's exactly right. False light. Want to make sure to bring that out. Yeah. False light. Publicity. Excellent spot on that. Invasion of privacy. False light publicity. Excellent job. Very well done. Conversion. Now, was there any other additional intentional tort claims that John Smith can bring against Deb? Nope, it doesn't look like it. Maybe now we got to bring in possibly any defenses and damages. Now, damages would be general damages and special damages. Okay. Any negligence claim against Deb? Doesn't look like it. Any strict liability claims? Doesn't look like either. Products liability claims? Nope. Any other torts that might pop up? Doesn't look like that. How about third party? No. Okay. Looks like we pretty much have our list now. Let's get right to it. Alrighty. Now up here under defamation, we want to get rid of this. Okay, we are ready to write. Under defamation, here is a possible template that you might want to apply. Okay. False statement. Well, you could say false defamatory statement. Now, of or concerning the plaintiff. I want to make sure to establish that whether libel versus slander communicated / published. Reputational harm. Okay, reputational harm. Now, any particular slander per se arguments? We were thinking about, okay, possibly that we'll entertain that here. But with that, that would go to the fact that Bob accused him of being the John Smith drug dealer. Now, the other one is the defense. The defense. Well, actually, we want to make sure to talk about. Oh, third party. What third party issue are you looking for in here? Or what third party issue do you see here? To knowing third party. Now, how? What do you mean by that? Okay, communicated. Oh, excellent. That's exactly right. So we're talking about to knowing communicated or published. See that could very well be your rule statement for communicated or published. But that's good if you want to put that in a communicated or published to knowing third party. Now, okay, good. Okay, defamation. And why are we taking so okay, we want to make sure to outline this and take a little bit of time to talk about these particular issues, because when we come up in here and this is a rather large question and a pretty good amount of facts. We want to make sure that we're basically peeling apart our question, our part, separating our question by the facts to go to the correct issues. Okay. Now, Anna owns a chain of daycare centers in city and needed to hire a new director of operations. John Smith, who had recently moved from a small town to city, applied for the position. He appeared to be well qualified for the job. Now, what job are we talking about here? Because here's the thing: we actually need to be looking at these facts within the system of our shopping list, okay, or our checklist, and then particularly within our template. We need this particular set of facts is going to be going towards our constitutional privilege. Why is that so? The new director of operations. When we're talking about the new director of operations, are we talking about a public official? Possibly not. Are we talking about a private party? Possibly not. So it's between a private party and a public official. Could it be a private party in a public controversy? It's possible. So so if you have that kind of conflict, you want to make sure to talk about both the New York Times v. Sullivan position and the Gertz v. Wells position. I know this is like talking about defenses before the claim itself, but sometimes these facts present themselves like that. But that's why we're trying to take the question apart and put it into its appropriate spot, so that we can accurately issue spot and then apply those facts into our analysis. Now, John Smith, who had recently moved from a small town to city, we already read this, applied for the position. We already know the position, the new director of operations. He appeared to be well qualified for the job. Okay. Anne sent an email to her friend Bob, who lived in town, to see if Bob knew John Smith and whether he had any information about him. What do you think this particular fact here goes to? He appeared to be, or excuse me, not that one. The Anne emailing her friend Bob, who lived in town, to see if Bob knew John Smith and whether he had any information about him. Do you know what possible defense that Bob may raise that this fact would support? What do you think? Any responses? Okay. Now, this would go to qualified privilege. Qualified privilege sits right here. Yeah, exactly. Excellent job. Excellent job. I should wait a little bit longer. I'll definitely take note of that. Thank you for your patience. That would go to qualified privilege, okay? So we want to make a note of that down here, that Anne sent an email to her friend Bob, who lived in town, to see if Bob knew John Smith and whether he had any information. So want to make sure to take a note of that down here. Here we go. Anne sent an email to Bob concerning, okay, Anne sent an email to Bob, concerning applicant John Smith. Okay, now we already talked about the constitutional privilege. What fact raised that? That would be up here under new director of operations, okay? Okay. Now we will come back to truth and then the invasion of privacy, false light arguments here. So let's go back up to our facts now. Now, Bob emailed back stating that he did not know John Smith, but that he believed that John Smith was a convicted drug dealer who had sold drugs to minors. Now, this belief about John Smith being being a convicted drug dealer, okay, down here could both possibly Bob's email back to Anne that John Smith was a convicted, that Bob believed John Smith was a convicted drug dealer. Okay. Now, why am I putting these facts here? Well, I'm trying to show you that, and this is a new approach that I'm taking into consideration, that a lot of these facts will find a home. We want to make sure all these facts have a home. There's no such thing as a homeless fact. So, back up here now. Okay. Although he did not explain the source of his belief to Anne, it was based on an article in town's newspaper that he had read about the conviction of a major drug dealer named John Smith, who had been selling drugs to students at the local high school. Now, down here under truth, this is that would be the article in the local newspaper. Okay. Now, back up here. Anne decided not to offer the job to John Smith. That would be the reputational harm. Anne decided to not offer the job to applicant John Smith. Okay. Keep going through the facts here. When Smith inquired as to why he had not received the job, Anne truthfully, again, told him, this might go towards the truth argument, that Bob had informed her that he was a convicted drug dealer who had sold drugs to minors. Now, down here, that would be the communication. That would be part of the communication. And there's another spot that could possibly be brought up as well, and that would be under slander per se. Now, remember that in slander per se, we have the four particular slanders that are types of slander that we're looking at. First of all, the slander concerning criminality that is moral turpitude, loathsome disease, or criminality that evidences moral turpitude, excuse me, and then loathsome disease, unchastity, and the professional / business slander. In other words, it is slander concerning someone's professional professionalism or business activity. Yeah, libel, exactly. You could there would be a situation involving libel here as well because of the email. That's exactly right. Come up here. Very good point. Libel would be the newspaper. Libel, what's that? Let me put this equal sign. Libel, newspaper. Down over here, the slander would be the communication from Anne, possibly. I'm gonna have to think about that. Now, other concerning the plaintiff, this is what the interesting aspect. It's applicant John Smith. Now, remember back up in the article. What was it about applicant John Smith versus the drug dealer John Smith? Right down here. In fact, the John Smith that Bob had read about in the article was different. Was a different John Smith, and the newspaper article had included the actual drug dealer John Smith address and photograph. They were in no way similar to job applicant John Smith, who was the fine, upstanding citizen that he appeared to be. So that would fit this here. Applicant John Smith was not the John Smith in the article. Now, the false defamatory statement. Oh, that's you could argue mistake. Now, it is possible, but mainly I would say that truth and qualified privilege are going to be your go-to defenses. But that's a very good one as well. Maybe that Bob had made a mistake in reading the newspaper article. Okay. Now, going down now through our question, we actually, okay, where is it here? Okay, now there were no way similar to job applicant Johnson, or they were in no way similar to job applicant John Smith, who was the fine, upstanding citizen that he appeared to be. Okay, excellent. Okay, now down here, false light publicity. That would be Bob's communication to Anne. Okay, now right here, false. Okay, the statement was that Bob told Anne that John Smith was a convicted drug dealer. Okay, that right there. Applicant John Smith was not the John Smith in the article. The two John Smiths were in no way similar. Okay, now we've gone through and put the facts that we would use right by our issue. The reason why I'm doing this on this one is I wanted to be able to show you kind of a streamlined approach through this, and we're going to be talking through this too. Okay, so I hope this meets with your approval. What about IID? Yes, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. Now there wasn't any IID for John Smith against Bob, because we got to come up here and take a look at what is in the question. Applicant John Smith sued Bob in tort for harm to his reputation. Now, you might be able to argue IID. Now, that is a fantastic argument. Now, I would throw that in there. Intentional infliction of emotional distress. Now, well, what would evidence that? That would be right where we're headed right now in the last paragraph, or second to last paragraph. Upset and distracted after talking with Anne. Applicant John Smith, upset and distracted after talking with Anne. Right here, that's exactly right. Upset and distracted after talking with Anne. Okay, now coming down here under the claims against Deb, we have these facts. Applicant John Smith got into his car and carelessly merged into traffic, cutting off Deb, who barely avoided running into him. Now, what does that fact go to? Right down here, possibly the defenses. John Smith merged into traffic. We'll see right here. Almost running into Deb. Cutting off Deb, almost running into Deb. Damages. We already talked about the general damages, special damages, so I'm just going to delete that. Okay, now when we need to come up though and supply supporting facts to our assault, battery, intentional infliction, emotional distress, trespass to chattel, and then conversion. Okay, right here. Deb became enraged, and after he pulled into a driveway to turn around, managed to use her car to block him in his car in the driveway for 10 minutes. So we probably we'll talk about, where's false imprisonment. Okay. Blocked John Smith in the driveway. Okay. Now, emotional distress could be enraged. Okay. Deb became enraged. Okay. Now, down here under assault and battery, though, John Smith screamed at her and called her insulting names. Deb took her foot off the brake and drove her car into John Smith's car. Deb took her foot off the brake and drove into John Smith's car. Same fact can be actually applied to both here. Okay, and then coming down to trespass to chattel, drove into John Smith's car. Okay, coming up here. Okay, okay, significantly damaging the bumper. There it is. There it is. And I want to add that additional fact. So trespass chattel drove into John Smith's car, damaging the bumper. Okay, now the conversion. Want to throw out the. I think we talked about this. Significantly damaging the bumper. Okay. Okay, conversion. And I want to combine too that it had to be 2 weeks repair. Okay, so because the conversion factor is the significant dominion and control over the plaintiff's property, which happened here because of the significant damage to the bumper, which required the mechanic to spend 2 weeks to repair the car Now, the $2,000 for the repair would actually be under special damages, though. $2,000 repair cost. General damages would be pain and suffering for having no car for 2 weeks, possibly. Pain and suffering, loss of the ability to enjoy life, for not having for having no car for 2 weeks. Okay, now that there. Okay, now special damages, $2,000 repair cost, and possibly any out of pocket expenses. Okay, due to the repair. Okay, now I think we come up here and make sure that we've addressed all the issues here. Looks like we have. Okay, I think we'll definitely call this good for right now. So I'll make this a part one. We'll come back and we'll write this, and we'll get the analysis in. But for now, this is where we'll leave it. The outline and showing you that every one of these facts has a home within each issue. In other words, there's no such thing as a homeless fact. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I want to put a shout out to Chess Cruncher TV. Keep going, Chess Cruncher. You're incredible. And I want to put a shout out to my Amazon Kindle book, Battling the Big Bad Baby Bar. Okay, thank you so much. Until we get back again to analyze and apply the facts to our issues per the applicable fact, and being able to argue that in a lawyer-like manner. Until then, best of luck on the bar exam, applicants.